Welcome, Shift Crew. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Obsidian Blade Medicine Hour. It's a Monday. Are we ready to do this? Yes, we are. Why? Because we're equipped. We're all equipped to do this thing, the human thing. The human thing, which turns out to be the best game in town. The best game in town. So just as we get this party started, Cindy, good morning. Nice to see you. Hey, everybody. Good morning. Happy Monday. I apologize for my late start. I am committed for this getting on at 10 o'clock, but I'll tell you, going with the flow also is an important thing to do because we're not robots and we have to go with the flow. So good morning, everybody. Going with the flow, going with who you really are. And so I do a lot on these production days when I do the Medicine Hour live. I'm waking up and I'm getting up at like 6:30. I want to be up at 6. I'm jumping out of bed. I'm doing HIIT cardio, and then I'm meditating, and then I'm like running around the house doing a ton of stuff to prepare. Good morning, Jojo, Little Hawk Midnight. And but again, my commitment is to be here at 10 a.m. sharp. But some days, you know what? I just have to feel what I'm feeling. And that's what I want to share with you today, which is really, we want to examine, of course, all our tools and techniques around being creators and manifestors in this episode. But I also want to talk about transforming the challenges of the shift. And I came to an awakening recently, this past weekend, around one of the major challenges we face around the shift. And we're going to dive into it as we get into this episode. But it's just so nice to see everybody here. Always grateful that we get to have digital communion, I guess you would call it, shared psychic space, mindset that is going to really be in your corner to uplift you to wherever you want to go in this world as you are naturally who you are. So I love that you're here. I'm just going to do the intro. So again, good morning. It's Monday. Welcome to the Obsidian Blade Medicine Hour. If you're new to this channel, I wrote up a new intro, so I want to read it because it really focuses what we're doing here together and what I'm representing. So, welcome empaths, healers, light workers, star seeds, and shamans to your cutting-edge spiritual tune-up center and gym. Your place to train and align with the sixth sun, new earth, Aquarian age, or just really the life that you want. It's kind of the same thing, really. All those big words just mean, you know what? Go out there and get the thing that you want and be the thing that you want. It's time. We cover what the mainstream deception machine will never tell you about, which is all the techniques, mindsets, clarity, energy blueprints, light codes, and instructions to exit the matrix, cleanse your shadow, and come back to life in your full power as an infinite cosmic co-creator in alignment with our favorite lady, Lady Gaia, as your ally, aka let's become the superheroes who are really just human beings that have remembered themselves. So, do you dare to be the change that you seek in this world? Well, I've got the maps. We are the Shift Crew. Let's do this. Good morning. So, you ever notice how the weekend feels different than the week? Like a Monday, right? We're in Monday and it's Monday mode. It feels like a Monday. Here we are. But then when you get to like Saturday has a feeling. Sunday really has a distinct feeling. Everything's relaxed. That's because we're tied into the group. See, Saturday by itself doesn't have a frequency. Like Saturday is not a radio station that like emits a particular frequency. Saturday is just a name for another day. The thing that changes on Saturday is the human beings, and more particularly, the mindset of the human beings that are participating on a thing called Saturday. And so that's important to notice because, okay, well, what does Saturday have to, do with manifesting my life? Well, that's because we have to notice that we are part of a group species and that group species has mass and momentum in the direction of its previous agreements. And so as we're setting up new agreements, Giselle, to reality, we are having to notice that by default, we're connected to the group hive mind of the human collective. So again, that's why when you hit a Saturday feels like a Saturday, not because it's Saturday, it's because every human has agreed this is my behavior. And then you can feel caught up in the group behavior of like, oh, okay, the schedule's different today. And then by Sunday, right, the group agreement is to be really, really relaxed for the most part, majority of the group, right? And then by Monday, okay, back to business. So we get our back to business brain going on. And then we're caught up in that human wave. Like Monday morning is no time to be lazy, right? So when we're discovering our new truths, we have to realize that we're kind of, I guess I could use the word fighting an existing momentum or fighting an existing tide of energy. And so that can exhaust you if you're fighting what you don't want. It can completely exhaust you if you're feeling like you're taking one step forward, but 20 steps back, because the tide of the group agreements are sucking you back in. Right? So part of our work, again, I'll keep saying the phrase, is to ignore reality at all costs and to go into the inner realms of energy bonding that holds you to the agreements of what each day means so that you can find out what each day means for you as you decide it. And as you decide it, it can, like each new day can never be the same. A Saturday doesn't have to be a Saturday. A Monday doesn't have to be a Monday. Did you know that there's actual data out there that most people die at Monday morning around 8 a.m.? Most people die in the Western world at 8 a.m. Monday morning, somewhere in that time of having to be someone they're not. The stress of having to be someone you're not is literally killing large portions of the population. And that is actually backed up by the cataloging of when people die. It's around 8 a.m. Monday morning. Fuck it. Nobody wants to keep doing the same thing, right? So we have a certain challenge when we're talking about the shift. We are challenged by this group mindset that pre-exists. And, we who are hanging out together, we've already made those commitments. That's why we're here. But it can also be, we have to be, I guess what I'm getting at is we have to be very compassionate with ourselves. If the changes we want, both maybe personally and planetary, are not happening, we have to examine the patient as they are. And right now, that patient has more mass and more momentum in the direction of deception. And so to be extra kind to our efforts and our own evolution, because again, you're connected to a group mindset, whether we like it or not. And so that is one of the major challenges of making this shift, that we're really going to have to transform hearts and transform minds on a person by person, event until we have more momentum in the direction of life rather than in the direction of deception. And that description of deception can mean a lot of things. First of all, deception can be the denial of what feels good to you, hence people dying at 8 a.m. Monday morning. So ending the deception of what you want is really the first step that we've got to take a look at, because the only fight that truly exists is the one inside your own mind. And so if we're concentrating our thoughts upon self-defeating ideas, or even worse, the idea that you live in a society or a world that's not going to give you what you want, then that's where we set ourselves up for huge disempowerment. And the craziest thing about disempowerment, you'll hear me say it all the time, is that it takes your power to be disempowered. Like, disempowered doesn't run its own show. It's funded by the Central Intelligence Bank, which is your personal power, your personal energy. So deception has a financial backer, and it turns out you're the financial backer. And so when we are looking to live the life that we want in alignment with our hearts, we have to end the fight for living that vision of truth within ourselves first. Straight up, Jojo. So that's our first challenge. That's our first victory that we're looking for. Being mindful that there's a group mind that surrounds us, but we are being the change that we're seeking in this world. And then to establish victory in ourselves first is the only way you're going to move forward. And so it's interesting, in my own practice, when I look at what I want, something I'm desiring, there's a couple of things you've got to look for. I notice in myself, okay, is there a context? Like, the thing that I want can only happen a certain way, like one way. In a realm of infinity, I'm saying it can only happen one way. Okay, that's a limitation that I'm holding myself to, and then, causing delay, causing frustration, because how do I figure out that one situation when the universe, aka your subconscious, is very brilliant and is very excited to delight you in supplying you with that which you want, but in a creative way that's going to make you laugh your ass off. So that's my commitment. My commitment is I'm ready to laugh my ass off in the hilarious and ingenious way the subconscious and the universe, which is the same thing, is waiting to deliver what I want. So I look at, okay, what are the limitations that I'm putting up in my mind? And what are the beliefs that I don't maybe deserve it, right? So we have to look at our self-worth. We have to look at, hey, we do deserve what we want, Rocio. We do deserve what we want. And to get into that space that not only do we deserve what we want, but there doesn't need to be delays. There doesn't need to be a timeline. Because the first way you can actually live in the life that you want is to actually do that, to live in the life that you want, to start right now, regardless of any external factors. So again, getting back to that not being caught up in the external factors of your society or your government, and not being caught up in the externalized factor of the group mind, that wave of collective agreement, and to really be like, I'm unplugging myself and hyper focusing on giving myself what I want via thought combined with strong emotional feeling right now. And so it's interesting to examine, when you think about what you want, do you add delay? Do you add conflict? Do you add a certain context to what you want, which then sets you up to being limited and being frustrated with not getting what you want because you're setting up all these rules when it's only really your job to direct the universe, not be the universe. See, I kick it down all the time, right? Our subconscious mind is 95% of your thinking power. Your creative power, your intelligence is 95% of your intelligence is subconscious. The 5% is meant to be the captain, the king, the queen that says, you go over there and do this for me because you love me and you're ready to give me what I want. Your position is on the throne of power, not out there trying to get your hands all over every sort of thing. So if there's a huge force of intelligence behind you called your subconscious, which is 95% of your computing power, your thinking power, then let that 95% of you do the heavy lifting. Step into the commander role, which is this, which I just laid down. Sit on the throne, envision what you want, remove all limitations so that you can arrive in the now, in the high emotional state of being it, having it right now. Yeah, it's true, Cindy. This is straight up, psychology, neuroscience that shows how we're constructed. So so this is the wildest thing about the subconscious. This is why you should trust the subconscious, as well as trusting your heart. So, well, first of all, a quick note about the heart that I just learned. The heart forms in the human body, in the fetus, before the mind does. And that the heart has its own mind. It doesn't, and in some ways, the heart is not governed by the mind in the autonomic functions. The heart can beat on its own, and it does in your own human life. When you're first, being conceived as a fetus, your heart lives its own life before the brain is created. So first of all, we are seeking to be in our heart here with this. The heart being the conversion point between the heaven chakras and the earthly chakras below. This is the midpoint. And living from your heart is the first part. But why we should trust the subconscious is that think about what the subconscious does. What your brain then does is creates your bones. It creates all the pumping of the blood. It creates all those nerve endings. It creates the entire system. And it creates that entire system basically out of nothing. It knows how to do this all on its own. So think about all the powers of what the subconscious can do. It created you. And so if it knows how to pull you out of zero, meaning pull you out of the ethers and form you into a body, okay, you're already in a wild, wild mechanism of creation. So trusting that wildness, trusting that power of like, it knows how to make things. It knows how to make things because it made you. So like having that level of wind at your back, right? May the wind be in your sails is that phrase. The wind is the subconscious, and it's blowing super hard on your ship to move you in any direction that you steer that ship. And that's the key point. The wind is always blowing. The wind is always filling the sails, but it's your job to be at the captain's helm with two hands on the wheel going like, that way. I'm going in that direction of my fortune. So again, in your meditations, to really focus upon, are you agreeing to a pre-existing description of reality that's going to limit and frustrate and block your own creation from happening. And how do you know you're blocking your own creation from happening? Because you're contemplating frustration. You're contemplating how it should go down rather than just being in it now and feeling it, feeling the high emotional state of having that experience, the person, the place, the thing, the situation, whatever it is, running your business in a new way, finding that relationship, whatever it is, being in the ultimate that is true for you and not true for anybody else except for the people who are going to participate in it, right? That's who we want to attract. People who are in resonance with the foundation that we have created in ourselves first. So just looking at my notes, how do you feel about that? Checking in with you. We really have to do our own thing here. We really have to find that bravery in doing our own thing. And it turns out the thing that we want feels amazing. And it's inside our heart. So yes, contemplating nothing but exactly what you want and how it feels with you living in the center of that exact dream without compromise. That's how we roll. I think I want to go into something I pulled. I pulled a card today for today's show. So I've been working with this thing called the Toltec Oracle. Let's quickly show you the book. And it's a set of divination cards based on the Tonopawali, which is the sacred calendar, 260-day sacred calendar of the Mexica Aztec, which has its origins with the Toltec. And the card that I pulled today is Cuautli, which is the Nahuatl name for eagle. And so I was going to read you. I'll show you the card. And what today's card means really ties into the theme of what we were taking a look at as far as, being the transformation that you're seeking, being the change that you're seeking in defiance of how you've lived your life so far up to this point, how it's been told to you it is rather than where you want to go. So the eagle card represents the freedom of elevation from what is low through your own effort. Getting the eagle card means you need to and can elevate yourself from whatever is oppressing you, no matter how low you think you are. And the key thing here is no one's oppressing you because you're participating as a powerful being. You want to change it up, cancel your existing cable subscription to realities that don't need to be solved. That's the trick about illusion. It doesn't need to be solved. What needs to happen in illusion is that you remember you're the one funding that participation, and you don't solve illusion, you walk away. And that's the theme we've got going on here with Cuautli, the eagle card. The freedom that the eagle spirit portrays is self-liberation, a self-liberation process that isn't directed against any externalized enemy. The only real enemy is our attachment to actions, situations, and habits that give us no life, but that we remain attached to out of the fear of trying something new. And that level of fear of trying something new is living a life of safety at the expense of actually having a life. I just want to answer that question. Is it normal to feel like two people operating in this body, higher self and ego, playing a human role? Sure, it's normal to be out of alignment. It's been normalized to be out of alignment, but you see, ego and your higher self can be one and the same. If you treat your created personality as something that's harmonious with your higher self, then you can feel comfortable that you're no longer, or you're not living a life that's in deception, right? Like you're worried that your ego is super greedy, but your higher self is free of all needs. Okay. Well, you're here on the planet, and your ego is here to keep you alive, right? We have to understand there's two versions of an ego, a healthy one and an unhealthy one. And often when we adopt the Eastern version of, I guess getting rid of the ego, it's very much based in what we've imported from Hinduism and Buddhism. We have to realize that a lot of Hinduism and Buddhism was formed many centuries ago, and that wisdom is only healthy when it helps us solve the situation that we're in. And so many of the ancient teachings are great, but they need to be modified to handle the current situation that we've got going on. And currently, having an ego is fine. We don't need to liquidate our egos. We need to harmonize them with truth, with life. So don't worry about having a personality, because how else would you feed yourself? How else would you, if you were too busy serving everybody else, you'd wither away. So having a healthy ego is a level of nurturance to your existence, and keeping an eye out on what's important, right? So there's a healthy level to that. So again, I would say shoot for harmonizing the two of those by aligning yourself what is most good for you, and when you look at what your actions are involved in, do your actions help you, and do they help others, and are they in alignment with a life-giving, sustainable action that is coexisting with the earth? So just jumping back into this, eagle card. The eagle's voice says, you can stop the habit that is killing you now. You can leave that person who doesn't respect you now. You can leave a job that's killing your spirit. You can start now living the life that your spirit longs for. And that's what we've been hitting on this theme of live it now. Live it now, regardless of what reality you've been previously agreeing to, and to take your power back from what you've been agreeing to. So you can start now living the life that your spirit longs for. You can stop hurting your body by eating in a way that you know isn't good for you. You can leave behind the physical or emotional addictions that sustain your false mask of weakness. So, when we talk about ego, right, that's another word for identity. Identity at its root is an agreement. Same with the realities that you're experiencing is an agreement. So they're hand in hand. You form a persona, you form an identity, you form an ego, and then you live the rules of that identity, of that personality, of that ego. And then you get what you get. You is very relative right there. You get what you get. But it turns out you don't have to be the you have created so far. That's when you really double down on bravery, and you go, not only do I not have to think the thoughts I have been thinking, I don't need to be the I that thought those thoughts in the first place. So you double liquidate what's going on. You're letting go of the participation and the thoughts, and you're letting go of the personality that created those type of thoughts, right? So when I think, okay, you could equate it to, what type of music does a hardcore metal band play? Oh, it plays metal. What type of music does a jazz band play? Well, they play jazz. What type of person did you create, and what type of music, aka life experiences, does that type of personality play? And if you don't dig what you have been playing, then you stop participating, and then you also deconstruct the you that you constructed so that you can align with a new you that feels even better, a new you who's in more power, a new you who's flowing with service and abundance, a new you who's really loving being in that great new relationship. So you've got two levels to deconstruct always, the thoughts and the one who thinks the thoughts. Both of those are up for grabs. So when we talk about setting our vibration, who's the hour? An hour as in what time is it? Who's, aligning your thoughts? Who's the one who's thinking the thoughts? Because the thoughts are only going to be as good as the one who thinks them. So that's what we examine. Who's the one who's thinking? Oh, well, that person's also up for renegotiation. So this is what the ego card is also, alluding to, that battle or that challenge is within you. And so first step is to no longer be victimized by external circumstances in this transformation. And that's why I'm saying the first challenge of the shift is to get out of the momentum of pre-existing agreements of reality. So you can change everything in your life right now. You are much stronger than you have ever imagined. This is the elevation that the eagle represents. The barriers to a better life have always been inside. And inside is the first place where you will overcome them. Inner change will be expressed in action that will empower your life and your world. Be aware that the elevation of the eagle doesn't happen through fighting against what crawls. It is the transmutation of it into something higher. So what they mean by what crawls is in ancient Aztec culture, Mexica culture, there's the symbol of the eagle wrestling with the serpent. There's many ways to look at that. But that's a very central image for the Mexica people. But you could say, that is the lower consciousness eventually being taken to the higher consciousness. There is a very interesting circular wheel there, because what are birds actually? Birds are actually dinosaurs, reptilians. Before they were birds, they were reptilians. So when you look at the snake, a reptilian, and then you look at the eagle, you look at the eventual evolution and elevation of the reptilian to the higher consciousness, the source consciousness. So there's a growth there and a full circle of integration going on there. But again, also the eagle doesn't make the changes in her life or his life by fighting against what's existing outside of you. Psychologically and spiritually, it means that you will achieve your elevation through your passion for flying and not through fighting with the negative parts of yourself. What you consider to be the negative parts are going to be transmuted by your search for elevation. And that's a really cool thing. Again, Abraham Hicks talks about a lot. If you focus upon that which you don't want, you just get more of that which you don't want. The key to moving beyond what's been holding you back or what you're struggling with or the old habits is to place all your attention on where you truly want to go. And then through that focus and that process, the old habits will get transmuted because just naturally they'll be let go of through your dedication to your heart's path. They will come up, but you're not focused upon them as a blockage, but rather as an indicator that you're moving forward. When shit comes up, it's an indicator that you're moving forward and not to be depressed by it or held back by it. But if you're truly focused on your heart's vision, then anything that comes up, is getting shifted, getting shook loose, right? It's that kind of little bit of turbulence as the plane takes off before the plane reaches altitude and gets into its rhythm of flight, right? You got to shake off the gravity. You got to shake off the gravity of the pre-existing habits that you've been engaged in, right? So the path of the eagle is saying, look, that war is not on the outside of you. The war is inside of you, but focus not so much on the war, but rather the victory. Because if you focus on all that you have to fight, you're just going to be focusing all your creative attention upon everything you have to fight. When I'm telling you, it's really important to disregard everything. The fastest way to wealth, the fastest way to that relationship, the fastest way to your successful business is to disregard everything, to pay zero attention to anything that you previously thought about that you had to handle, and really get into that space of what does it look like to arrive and live now the thoughts that I am giving myself permission to now think and then to feel. When we realize that there's no time but the now to give ourselves everything we want, when you hit that level of realization, your life is going to change. Your life is changing right now. So again, the elevation of the eagle doesn't happen through fighting against what's on the outside. It's about transforming your inner agreements until you're no longer agreeing to the things that you agreed to by agreeing on the thing that really floats your boat. So psychologically and spiritually, it means that you will achieve your elevation through your passion for flying, not through fighting with the negative parts of yourself. What you consider to be the negative parts are going to be transmuted by your search for elevation. So stay on the focus of elevation. Stay on the focus of the Aquarian age. Stay on the focus of the new earth. Go there, because there's really no waiting any longer. If you want to be there, you can be there. So if you're not there, then that's great, because that's saying and showing you precisely where you're agreeing not to be there. And then examine that, deconstruct that, go into those shadow agreements and be like, so if I can choose anything right now, why am I not choosing anything right now? And get that handled. So instead of thinking about the term in terms of destroying the parts of yourself or your life that give you trouble and do you no good, think about transmuting them. First, try to determine the good that you are trying to achieve. Like I said, the focus of being in the now of whatever you want. And let me say that again. First, try to determine the good that you're trying to achieve through your mistaken behavior, and then look behind the action and ask yourself, what good am I trying to achieve through this behavior that is important for me? Whatever you find, keep asking the same question. If you get to the bottom of your motivations, you will find out that you are looking for something positive, even in your most negative behavior. And that's an important thing to underline there. Again, this is the card Quautli, Eagle, from the book, The Toltec Oracle. Anytime you face a negative situation, it's really, there is a positive situation that's waiting to be discovered, a need. You have a need. And so it's okay that we focus upon the negative. It's okay that we get into a frustrating situation, because always those moments are an opportunity to turn it around and go, actually, I could get caught up in all that I'm trying to defend or all that I'm trying to attack, but really, what do I want out of this situation? What's the positive? You know, I said it the other day, we have two options when we're out in the world. We can be negatively triggered, or we could be positively triggered, or we could just remain in our in our neutral state of being on the throne as the commander of our own life. But if you're going to be triggered, may you be positively triggered. And to see every opportunity where you're about to be negatively triggered, to turn it around and find out what you really want, right? So a simple example would be like you're on the road and you're getting negatively triggered by the actions of a bad driver. What do you really want? You want to drive in safety. Who is the one that decides that you drive in safety? You are. So you just handle it right then. You turn it into a positive trigger to be like, I know exactly what I want. I know exactly what I want, and I'm living it now. It's just a nice mantra to keep saying it. I know exactly what I want, and I'm living it now. I know exactly. I could just say that for the next 20 minutes. I know exactly what I want, and I'm living it now. I know exactly what I want, and I'm living it now. Talk about permission to be the change that we're seeking. So as I began this talk, transforming the challenges of the shift, the first one is that it's a little bit of a fight to find out who you are when we are part of a group species. We are connected to a matrix of life as well as the fake matrix of the system. And just as you experience a shift when you experience each day, like people believe Saturday is a certain thing happens on Saturday, and you notice how you feel different on a Saturday or a Sunday, that's because of the group mind. So if you're finding a challenge to align with what you want, realize that there's a pre-existing momentum around you for you to be aware of. And I say all that because I can give myself a hard time. And I'm sure you can give yourself a hard time when you don't live the life that you want, or you don't focus on your frequency, because it's quite easy. And we've had the habit of negotiating our truth with external reality as it's been set down. And that's where we have to really shake it up. We've subtly agreed to certain rules, and then we're pissed off that we're living by those rules. So you don't fight the system, as the Eagle card was saying. We realize that the true war and eventual victory that we're seeking begins and ends with us. So we stay in that space. How's that feel? Does that make sense? And for me, the only way I do that is by having a practice and dedicating, hey, look, that means taking a mini retreat every day, maybe twice a day, in a thing called meditation. Really taking that retreat to give double middle fingers to the entire world by closing your eyes. Closing your eyes and thinking no thoughts is the most rebellious act you could ever perform, because you have that moment of realization that reality is only real when I decide it is. Reality is only real when you decide it is. Reality is only existing when you participate with it the way you have agreed to participate with it. So who's the one in control here at all these situations? It's you. It's really you. Now, some changes will be harder than others because they go against a more deeper form of agreement around reality. Some things that we want to switch up will be harder because there's a more group agreement around those things. But everything can be negotiated and let go of in order for you to be in alignment with the truth of who you are, because you are here and you are living a life. Do not deny that. So, one of the cards I actually picked earlier this weekend was, it's this card of balance. Look, you do, and someone asked that question earlier, which is a great question. Look, you do have a higher self and you have an earthly plane self, but you are here. And part of the main transformations that we're doing is to stop this one weird Christian mindset that you have to check yourself on. Because if you're living in the Western world, you are living in the after effect of thousands of years, a couple of thousands of years of some really weird Christian programming, okay, or Catholic programming, whatever form of Jesus institution you want to call it. And their main thing was to say that the body is unclean, that your human existence is flawed. And so just as I was saying, there's a group mind around what Saturday is or what Monday is. There's a group mind around what the body is and what the human is. And that's what the Obsidian Blade, one of the main things that I stand for, is the surgical removal of that idea that source is here and your body is here, that those two things are separate. When it takes source to create you, therefore you are source right now. Therefore, the body is an extension of the one prime. So if we stop dislocating our consciousness, if we stop separating our existence from the existence of source that created us, if we stop playing that game of bodily, like conscious bodily disassociation, turns out not only are you connected to source, but you are source. And it's going to take a little bravery and a little bit of paradigm shifting to get you there. But that is one of the end goals that I represent. The reconnection to your experience right now as the experience of source. Therefore, like in Course in Miracles would say, you are holy by default. Though that does bring up a lot of those words that are been Christianized. But you're sacred by default. You're connected by default. You are one by default. And you can't get away from it. Sorry. You belong to the family, the family of the one that creates you. So again, ending the fragmentation of the main galactic hard drive and running a program sweep, through the system and going like, your existence, your human life is holy. Your human life is connected. Just the key part to it, and the key part to anything that the Course in Miracles would be talking about, or the key part to anything of cleansing your shadow and finding your power, is observe where you are participating. Observe where you are participating. That's the key to your power. And to realize, I observe where I am participating, and I observe the one who is observing, because that person is also up for transformation. Because I can observe anything, and I can be anyone. There was a little video I came across this weekend called the Moses Code, and basically comes down to this. What is it? I am that, comma, I am. I am that, comma, I am. Meaning the true power of source is that which it decides to become, which is the essence of being a creator. I am that, I am. So, we just like to cover those basics over here. Smoke a haunt-ass. Trang, Denise. Good morning. How focused are you on giving two double fingers to everything that's ever existed before you so that you can discover what feels right for you. Yeah, the Moses Code, that's a pretty cool one. You can actually find it for free on YouTube. Just type in the Moses Code. James Twyman is the guy who created that or created the movie. But yeah, that essence of understanding the, oh God, that word holy, the sacred science of existence. The sacred science as a creator is that the creator is here inside of you right now. Source is not something a billion miles away in some weird dark nebula. It is, but it's also inside of you. So if you're having boundary issues with Source, sorry. Source is really, kind of a really a relationship you've got to heal because it's inside of you right now. And so, and not only is it inside of you, it's you. So whoever you are, your Source. Welcome to yourself, Source, in the great hall of mirrors called reality and existence. Remember, I am that I am. I am that I am is really, what are you focusing on? And then what are you getting? And if you don't like what you're getting, then who's the one doing the focusing? And how can that person refocus in a good way that feels the heart, feels from the heart, walks that heart path and goes like, there's that phrase, right, that you hear on TV when there's like a hostage situation or a terrorist situation in the movies, right? And the government person comes on and their main line is like, "We don't negotiate with terrorists." Oh yeah? Well then how come you sell yourself a shitty reality every day? Because you're negotiating with a terrorist inside who lives inside of you. You're literally terrorizing yourself. And I do it too. We have the habit and the agreement of literally terrorizing ourselves with previous agreements, when an agreement is merely an agreement. And all agreements can be unagreed to because there's no court of law. There's no piece of paper that you signed except the energetic contract inside of you to think a certain way when you can think anyway. So, stop. May we all stop terrorizing ourselves. I wonder if that's a Tibetan mantra somewhere. Om Mani, may we stop terrorizing ourselves, Padme Hum. Okay. And realize that it takes power to be powerless in our act of self-terrorization of agreements to reality that don't float our boat gently downstream. So contemplate nothing is really the key. It's, and I know it could sound really selfish. That's because it is, but it's selfish in a good way. That's going to be leading you to a path that eventually, through the act of serving yourself, you can then serve others in a greater way. Virgo, Earth, Goddess, good morning. When you serve yourself, it turns out you can serve others in very amazing ways. And that is the goal here that I'm, hanging out with you to encourage, that what you love to do will eventually help heal and guide others. But you've got to know what you love through that courageous act of getting rid of the weight of your previous agreements. And there's that beautiful connection between those words, right? You can play the wait game, like you're waiting for something to happen. And you can also let go of the weight, meaning the heaviness, the bulk, the actual weight of your previous thinking. So you get rid of two weights when you get into the now of your truth. You get rid of the weight, meaning it's going to happen tomorrow or never, and you live in the now. And you get rid of the weight, which is the mass and the momentum of your previous agreements, so that you can find flight as the eagle. The one who realizes they had the power all along to fly, and then they started just to focus upon flying. flying in the direction of your heart, flying in the direction of your truth, a truth that does not contemplate anything that came before it, but lives in its most expansive now. 11:11. So that's what I like to do for fun. How's it going for you? I'm about to wrap it up, but I love you so much. I'm so glad that we have had a moment to hang out. I am having my private Facebook group. If you are feeling like you want to go dive deeper on these things or ask me questions, you can always hit me up in the DM or click the link in the bio and join the private Facebook group where, I'm doing my best to lay out certain techniques that I've covered here in the live. And I love you all so much. Trang, Mad Pie, Virgo, Earth Goddess, Denise. So good to see you here, Emma. I love all of you and how hardworking you are and how dedicated you are to being the ones you have been seeking, aka the superheroes, which really means being a human being in their full power. And full power is really what's up, Ashley, as you already know. Full power is your default. I'll just lay that out. Remember, kids, full power is your default. We've all just been hardly working. We've just been taking that energy and agreeing to things that are just so draining. But you are powerful by default because you're source and many other things. Whatever you want to be. Be whatever you want to be. So that's what I got for today. I love you so much. Join the private Facebook group. If you're on YouTube and you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you love this video, please subscribe and hit the notifications bell. Again, we're here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Here to be the Shift crew together as one, kicking ass. And I'll just lay this one last thing out. Things are going to get a whole lot more diverse once we start being the original people who we are. Things are going to get a lot more diverse when we start getting in alignment with that power of infinite thought, infinite creativity, infinite possibility. We don't call it infinite possibility to then go and regard existing reality. You know what I mean? You don't call it infinite creator power to then go well, let me then stuff it back down in that small shoebox called the Matrix. So get ready for diversity on a scale you will see so very soon by becoming it first. Love you. Wow, we do so good here together. I'll see you again on Wednesday. Hit me up. Love you. Have a wonderful day being you.